and Andy, if you can do the record, that'd be brilliant, because then if anyone does join late, then they can just sort of have a look back on the recording. 1 second while I put the cat out of the room because he's having a fight with the printer.
The real question is he winning?
Right, apologies. Okay, cool. So the way that this is going to, sort of the structure of this call, we're going to go through stuff that we think people are likely to want to know the answer to or may have questions about. Do please feel free to put questions in the chat, and then we'll sort of look at all the extra questions towards the end. In terms of people that are watching this back and want information on specific bits, what we're going to do is we're going to do the first section on out of character stuff, all of your out of character type questions. The second part will be on sort of IC-ish things around skills and what can and can't you do as part of your archetypes and that kind of stuff, and things that are like skills, so stuff like death and dying and hits and that kind of thing. Then we'll have a brief look at the people in history that you're likely to know about, and then right at the end we'll do a section on sort of IC stuff around missions, things that happen outside of the main player area. So that's the structure: is out of character stuff, and then in character stuff skills, in character stuff people and history, in character stuff missions. If you're watching back, and then at the end we'll do questions. So put questions in the chat or ask us questions at the end. If you're not sure, chances are that other people aren't sure too. Cool. So first off is the character sheets. Thanks to everyone that's filled them in. We've had loads of fun going through backstories and stuff. It's really helpful for us because it means that we know sort of roughly how many people are going to be playing what type of thing. If you've not yet filled yours in, there's still loads of time. We'd love to get those character names in, and then at least in terms of when we're giving out character packs, we can do that a bit more quickly. So we'd love for everyone to fill in their character sheets, and I think we'll try and put the link to that on in the chat so that you can fill them in now if you want to. Do feel free to fill in character sheets for backup characters. If you know you're going to go in all guns blazing, there's a good chance that you'll get around to second and third characters. Fill in for backup characters if you would like. You don't have to, it's just if you would like. In terms of if your character dies, it's a really aggressive death count. The standard is 30 seconds, and there's a lot of stuff that is going to try and do you harm. So you should assume that if you're putting yourself in harm's way, there is a more than nothing chance that you're going to lose the character. Staying in E block is the best chance of not dying, but it's also not a 0% chance. It makes it way less likely that you're going to die. So yeah, bring spare kit, bring backup kit. There will be a bit of spare stuff in the crew area. If you're on the train and you're really packing light, but don't rely on us having the exact character kit that you're going to want for a backup. The other thing about death is that we know it's going to happen quite a lot, and we also reward death quite a lot. So there's a mechanic called death cards, which are these little cards that if you die in a particularly cool or dreadful or excellent, or if we think it's fun, there's a chance that you'll get given a death card. Death cards are only ever good things. It's a well done for being awesome type thing. And if you get one, then you get to choose some perks for your next character. They're well worth having. They're definitely well worth having. And the cooler or more notable your method of exit is, the more likely you are to get given a death card. It's unfair, the system is fundamentally unfair. There's a chance, if you die in an awesome way and no one saw it, there's a chance that you might not get one, but we will try and give them out, where we think it's been a good death. Cool. Your player packs are going to have all of your skills and stats and stuff in it. So if you've forgotten what you put on the sheet, don't worry. You get a pack with your skills, stats, items, all that kind of stuff. In terms of what to bring, the most important thing is bring water. There is no drinking water on site. There is in the crew and god area toilets, there is running warm-ish water, but it is categorically not drinkable. You'll get ill from drinking that water. Please don't attempt that. So bring water for food, bring water for toothbrushing, for washing, for all of that kind of stuff. Minimum, we ask everyone to bring 2 litres of water, and that really is a minimum. You may consider bringing more than that. Bring food. It isn't a catered event. There are no caterers on site. There are plenty of takeaways that will deliver to the area. Just Eat and so on are used to delivering there. What you'll need to do if you're ordering food in is make sure that you give them your full name, because it will get delivered to the crew area, and you need to come and collect it. We're not bringing it in for you. You can absolutely order it to the crew hut, but we're not bringing it out on a tray. So yeah, bring food or a way of getting food for yourself. Bring your bedding and or tents. So the sleeping situation we'll go through later, but just make sure that you've got a plan for where you're going to sleep. We'll cover that in a separate bit. Minimum, bring sleeping bag, pillow, all of that kind of stuff. Make sure you bring your meds, bring your charger, that kind of stuff. Any set dressing that you want to bring, there's loads of room in the player area. If you want to decorate your little bit of the player area, you absolutely can. Bring any props that you're going to use for your character. And a really sensible thing to bring would be camping chairs, that kind of stuff, inflatable chairs. There will be a minimal amount of seating in the in-character area, but if you want your own, or if you want reliably to get a chair, bring a camping chair. You don't have to decorate it. That's the great thing, is it can literally just be a camping chair straight off the shelf. There's probably a camp shop in that particular part of the world that hasn't been raided for 20 years, so they've got a whole load of clean stock. That's fine. Bring chairs and stuff. For details about the parking, we've put a video up of where you're going to be parking, so do have a look at that. But fundamentally, as you go into the sort of the estate that the prison's in, you turn left. Any of that parking is valid parking. The parking that you see when you go into the trading estate is the parking that you can and should use. Shouldn't be parking outside of the crew hut. If you're dropping stuff off in the player area in E block, and we'll go through the different blocks in a bit, you can linger there a little bit longer. We just don't want people blocking the one-way system, because it's a single track road and it's a one-way system. Please don't leave cars outside there. So yeah, the sleeping arrangements are up to you. There is room for the majority of people to sleep in the cells and downstairs cells and the communal areas downstairs. So that really is an option. If you're doing that, you probably want to bring a camp bed or a roll mat or something like that, because there are bed type structures, but they're just really solid, sort of board. They're really not comfortable enough to sleep on by themselves. So probably bring a camp bed. There's enough room for a single camp bed in the cells. And if you're sleeping in the communal areas, then bring sufficient bedding for that. You might want a bit more privacy, and it's also quite claustrophobic inside E-Block. So you might just want somewhere that you can go for a bit of a breather that's still an in-character space. There is loads and loads of room to set up in-character tents, bell tents, festival tents. It doesn't matter. Whatever tent you have is the correct tent, and there's loads of room to set it up on grassy areas that you can get pegs in. Reasonably sensibly. So yeah, do feel free to bring in-character tents and set up an in-character sleeping area. There's also an out-of-character area that you could set your tent up in if you know you're going to need a chill-out space and you know you need a place where you can just get out of the game and not be in the game world. That's completely fine. That's closer over to the crew hut area. Again, it's on grass. There's plenty of room. There's no problem with you setting up an out-of-character tent. Yeah, that really isn't an issue at all, and it's very sensible if you know you're going to need some space to decompress. Yeah, so it's entirely up to you how you organise the sleeping situation. Just make sure that you've got the plan for that. And if you're bringing a tent, bring a tent, and if you're just bringing bedding, bring a bedding. In terms of cooking, inside E-Block, you cannot have unattended open flames. What we're going to do is we're going to set up a sort of a mess tent style thing outside. So if you want to use that as a sort of social cooking area, that's a great idea. You'd be very welcome to do that. But we'll set up a big sort of communal tent space outside of the main player area. I wouldn't suggest leaving unattended flames inside a tent. But what it does mean that, you know, if you want to be sort of doing role playing stuff while cooking, that really is an option there for you if you prefer. Cool. Yeah, the next thing is so we're running a system. We don't have non-coms as a thing, but each encounter will be designated low com or high com. So anything that you any mission that you go on outside of the base will be in advance. The referee will be able to tell you if it's low com or high com. Low com, all that means is, in order to stay alive, all you need to do is stay still, or as still as you possibly can. If staying perfectly still isn't something that you can achieve, it's just as still as you possibly can. And you'll always be given the benefit of the doubt on that. You absolutely can still die on low com encounters. They're not low threat. They're still high threat encounters. Everything outside of E-Block base is high threat. So if you go and engage with it, it is dangerous. It just means that by staying perfectly still, you will survive that portion. You don't have to run. You don't have to do any sort of climbing to escape stuff. Clickers are designated a low com monster. If there is just a clicker, that could be a low com mission, because you can evade clickers by staying perfectly still, and that's knowledge that everyone will have within the world. You know that those things will just leave you alone if you stay still. Yeah, so feel free to ask a referee if you're not sure, and you can pick and choose, and you can say, oh, I'm feeling a bit like only doing low com stuff today, but I might have a go at the high com stuff tomorrow. I'll see how I go. That's fine. We want everyone to be able to engage with the game in the way that's fun for them, and to only do the thing that's fun for you. High com, on the other hand, is absolutely a thing. High com means that there is a chance that you'll have to use, running or navigating over difficult terrain or that kind of thing in order to survive. The other part of high com is that if you would like to engage in really physical fighting, you can engage in really physical fighting under a certain number of constraints. So the people with whom you fight in a particularly physical manner, you have to arrange it in advance, so before before you're in an in character area. So have a chat with those people before time in, and say, this is what I'd like to do. I think it would be fun, if we properly grappled, or if we come across each other in a violent scenario, I'd be absolutely fine to simulate some really strong blows and that kind of stuff. Have that discussion before, and then when the opportunity presents itself, if you see that person and you're like, this is going to be the most amazing fight, and there's photographers over there, this is going to be so good, check in with them, make sure they're good with it. Are we good to go? Yep, let's go. And then you can absolutely go for it and have those kind of fights that probably wouldn't be acceptable at other places. It has to be really consensual, actively consensual buy-in on this stuff. If we get any suggestion that someone says, actually, this person has been fighting too hard and I wasn't okay with it, can you tell them to stop? We will always take that person's side. So make sure that you're getting enthusiastic consent before engaging in every sort of very physical fight. Yeah, and if someone actually looks like this was too much, check in, make sure that people aren't getting hurt. We don't want people to get hurt. We want people to have fun. Yeah, I'm going to pass over to Pip, I think, to have a little chat through some pyro stuff. Pip, can I get you to do a rundown of the SFX things?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So there. So blah. Wow. I am not doing well tonight. SFX team at Divided is myself, Michael Hay, and Keanu Durbin. We're also going to be supported by folks from Mandala. We will almost always be wearing orange high-vis if we're doing SFX during encounters, so we should be fairly easy to spot. And any encounters that have any SFX on them will be signposted beforehand. And you're always welcome to ask a member of the team if you want more information or details about the specific SFX being used on that encounter. Our main focus will always be the safety of everyone on the encounter and on site. So also, it's most importantly, if anyone from the team gives you an instruction, please just make sure you do follow it straight away, because it will be for a safety reason. In terms of the kind of effects that you're most likely to see, the thing that's going to be used most regularly will be smoke effect. This will either be from the Artem, which is a handheld smoke machine, or from smoke grenades. Alongside this, there's going to be stage or theatrical pyrotechnics. If you've ever been to see a pantomime or play, or you've been to a gig, you'll almost certainly have seen these. They're designed to be used indoors. They have a safe radius of about 2 meters. Most of them give off a little bit of a pop and then sparks or a flash. Again, we will signpost this on all encounters that we're doing. If you've got anything like asthma, PTSD that's triggered by unexpected loud noises, photosensitive epilepsy, please come and find me on site before time in, introduce yourself to the team. You don't have to share anything that you don't want to share. You don't have to tell us anything you're not comfortable with. You can simply say, I can't deal with loud noises, bright flashes are a problem, just so that we're aware. At smaller events, it is a bit easier to have a bit more control about what information we give out about SFX use and keeping an eye out for people. And we do try our absolute best to do that. But as I said, anytime we're using SFX, our focus will be on the safety of everyone on the encounter. So we can't always guarantee that we will be able to know where any given person is. So if there are effects that you think might cause you problems on an encounter, you will need to decide whether it is appropriate for you to be there. Things like reusable earplugs or loops are an entirely reasonable thing to wear if you think they're going to help. as long as you can still hear instructions from referees while you're wearing them. If you want to ask any questions about what effects are going to be used, you can absolutely come and find one of the SFX team, and we will try and give you as much information as we can about what things are likely to be used on encounters, what kind of, like, what they sound like, what they look like, as best we can. In terms of kind of player use of things, anyone who wants to use smoke grenades at the event has to come to an in-person briefing with the team before time in. So this will go over the safety aspects of how to use the smokes. It also includes a demonstration of how to use them safely and how they can be used within the context of this game. We'll also be checking all of the smoke grenades that any players bring before time in, just to make sure they're safe to use. If you are buying some and you're not quite sure, feel free to put a link up on either Discord or Facebook. We can have a look. But again, until we see them in person, we can't guarantee for definite whether they're going to be okay or not. In general, brands like Enola Gay, TLS FX, Black Cat, generally pretty tried and tested. Personally, I'd steer clear of buying anything from Amazon or like cheap websites. Airsoft or paintball websites are generally a good place to go. You are likely to have to pay for shipping because they are shipping pyrotechnics, they're shipping explosives. So it might be worth kind of grouping together with a few people or finding somewhere local to buy them. But yeah, if you're not quite sure what you want, what's good to buy, feel free to stick a link up and we can have a look. Because there are definitely some things that are better or more trustworthy than others. But we will be having a check of everything that's being used on site beforehand, and anything that we say isn't safe to be used needs to be kept in an out of character area for the duration of the game. Does anyone have any questions? Have I missed anything?
We will hold for a few minutes whilst people are typing questions.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's anything missed, Charlie.
No, I think that was everything. I'm not sure what's gone on with the video, so apologies on that. But no. So just to, I think Andy put a question there. Do you need to supply your own smokes? So anything that you start out with on your character sheet, we will supply that. Anything that you make in addition to that, we may be able to help with, but we have a very, very limited supply of those particular sort of the grenade type smokes. So if you know you're going to be very likely to be making loads and loads and loads of explosives over the weekend, it would be really sensible to supply, you know, a selection of your own so that you know that you've got the things that you're going to be trying to create. So, for example, we're going to have 5 of the blue smokes. So if you were the 6th person to make one, well, you know, you might end up with a different type of grenade. So if you're likely to make lots and lots of explosives in addition to the stuff that you've got on your character sheet to begin with, then yes, I would suggest it's really sensible to bring your own. Don't know, Andy, if we've got any more questions specifically about pyro there.
Not yet. I'll give it another minute. And what's happened with the video is, for videos, is that because we have got so many people in the channel, video gets turned off, which is great because we've got enthusiastic response. Brilliant. Hi everyone.
That's super. Cool. Okay. Well, what we'll do then is I'll just carry on with the rest of the out of character stuff, and then if any more special effects type queries come in, then Pip, I'll hand back over to you on those, I reckon. At the end of the out of character stuff, we'll sort of wrap up the questions there. Cool. So the next thing is cards. We use a lot of cards in this system. You saw the death cards at the beginning. I was going to show you some med cards, but what I'll do is I'll take a photo and put that both in the general chat and on the Facebook page so that you can see what the other cards look like. One of the things that I think everyone is going to come across is med cards. Med cards are bad stuff happening to you that is more than just getting into a fight. So it could represent injury, it could represent wounds, it could represent infection, it could represent a lot of different things. Med cards will tell you exactly what the symptoms are on the med cards. They won't tell you what it is. You've got to go, when you get a med card, you go and see a medic and they will diagnose what the issue is and they will probably be able to treat it. They've got a whole diagnosis chart, so they'll be able to know what's going on there. They may have the items needed to cure you already. There'll probably be a stock of stuff within there's a medical team within the player area that you may have seen on videos already. They've got some stuff, they won't have everything. You may need to go out to get the supplies that you need to get rid of the med cards. Chefs can also get rid of med cards, and it's the items that chefs will use are significantly easier to come by in the game than the items that medics will use. Chefs can't diagnose you, but they can treat you once you've been given the diagnosis by a medic. So they're really useful people to know if you're feeling poorly. In terms of our on-site medic team, they are in-character medics. They're also all the referee medic team are all medical professionals as well. What that means is that if you have an injury that is really minor, they might be able to help. Scrapes, cuts and bruises. Serious things like needing an ambulance and going to hospital is a separate thing. But if you've got a scratch or a splinter or something like that, it could really do with someone having a look at it and saying you're okay. They might be able to help there. Just make sure that you let them know that it's an out of character injury, not an in character injury, so that they know what they're dealing with. They also have authority in the same way as Pip has authority over everything to do with the special effects. They have authority over the whole medical part of the game. So if they say something goes, or if they say something doesn't go, their answer is final. I won't be overruling them on anything because they know more than I do. The other cards that you might come across are death cards. As we've said, there are upgrades that you can find in the game that make you better than your original character. You'll be pleased to know that there are definitely ways in the game to extend your death count without going down the crafting route. There are definitely ways to give yourself more health points. There are ways to engage with skills outside of your archetype. There are loads of cool things that you can find if you go rummaging around outside of the safe zone. There are also things that there are boons and banes, so there are mechanical things that can happen within the game, and the card will always tell you what it does. If it's not a med card, it will tell you exactly what's happened, how long it's going to happen for, and any other information. If there's still any uncertainty, find a referee, and they'll be really happy to clarify. It's the first event of a new system. There will absolutely be times that you're not sure, so please feel empowered to ask a referee, what does this mean? That's always okay. Yeah, and I'll put an example of those in the various bits. If you're playing a medic, you can remove people's med cards. You diagnose them, you give them the thing that is on the sheet that will cure them, and then you take the med card off them and put it in the spent meds box. There'll be plenty of those in the player area. Again, I'll put a photo up so that you can see what we're talking about. Spent med cards go in there, and actually you can put anyone can put spent, exhausted, no longer in use cards in the spent med box, so that we can sort of keep cycling through. Cool. We'll come to questions just in a sec. Couple more points. So the next bit is welfare, and this is really important. So the game that we're running is really intense. It's likely to be stressful. There are likely to be things that are going to frighten you. It is just a game, but also it's a game that uses your physical body and your neurotransmitters, and there are going to be overwhelming situations. So we're really aware of that, and it's absolutely okay to go and take some time out if that's what you need. It's it's no bad thing to take yourself away to a quiet place in order to recharge. We do in the the crew area. There will be a room that's designated as a quiet zone that anyone can use. Crew, players, whoever, go and sit in there, get a little bit warmer, chill out. That is a fully quiet, safe space where you can just go and decompress. We've also got a member of the crew, Becky, who will be playing a character who will always be safe. They will be an NPC, but if you just need to have an in-character chat with someone that's not going to say horrid things to you or criticise you or any of that, a nice, safe in-character chat, Becky's the person to talk to, and they've been posting up on the page. So for visibility. What I want to really stress, though, is that if you're not okay and really don't want to be in the game, that's probably not
Sorry
the
about that.
area.
Please hold whilst we get Charlie reconnected. Are you okay there, Charlie?
Yeah, so
Yeah, no, we've lost you again. Yay, Discord. Right, so whilst we wait for Charlie to get back onto well-being, I'll do a quick introduction for myself. I'm Andy. I'll be playing Smith, who we'll come to later. I'm also your head weapons checker. When you come and dump your stuff down, get parked up, sign in at the game organization desk, there will also be outside a weapons checking area. I will have a little tent, and we are going to be doing both blaster checks for any of you that are going to be using Nerf guns for the course of your character, and weapon checks for your melee weapons. If your melee weapon is likely to pass at Curious Pastimes, Lorien Trust, Empire, or any of the other major systems in the UK, it is likely to pass here. However, unfortunately, my decision is final on that thing. Blaster checks, we are currently only running on a simple, if it's off the shelf and only like sort of cosmetically modified, then it's going to be fine. We're not doing any modified blasters at the moment. It will have a chronograph to check FPSs for some of the more bespoke blasters that are out there, and once a blaster has been checked, it will be tagged. With a zip tie, that's the word I was looking for, just to say that yes, it's been looked at. If the blaster loses a zip tie, come and find me. We'll go and get it checked again and whatnot. A question came up earlier in regards to ammunition and how likely is it to find it. Well, the question is how likely are you going to easily find ammunition in the United Kingdom at the moment? And then add in a possible major pandemic that causes what is essentially a civil war against things. There will be ammo drops around, but it's more Resident Evil. You're going to find a few shots rather than your latest action game where you're going to be reloaded with bullets every 5 seconds. Hope that's helpful, and hopefully we've got Charlie back.
Hello, have I come back in?
Yep.
Fantastic. Apologies about that. Yeah, absolutely. So again, as with the other stuff, Andy gets final say on anything to do with weapon safety, including bows, blasters, and melee weapons, and also with armor. If Andy says that your armor is likely to damage someone's, beautiful new melee weapon, then we'll ask you to remove that particular piece of armor, and his say is final on that stuff.
I will
perfect.
have a toolkit, so if you want to try to make your armor less sharp, there will be files and sandpaper available.
Perfect. Yeah, so we want to enable stuff rather than put any blockers in place. Cool. Yeah, so just going back to the well-being type stuff. Yeah, we've got the in-character well-being NPC. If you want to stay in character but just need someone that is going to be safe, is going to be reassuring, and is not going to criticise you in any way. And I think they've put stuff in the chat identifying themselves. But yes, taking responsibility for our own well-being is really, really vital in this game. So we want it to be super immersive, and in order to do that, we all need to make sure that that we're making sensible choices. So if the sensible choice is to remove yourself and be in an out of character location, there is absolutely no harm in that. There's so much going on in the game. You're not going to lose out. We'd really encourage people to move to out of character areas if they need to. So we've got a couple of other things to ensure that if you've just got yourself to a point of being too overwhelmed, then there are safe exits. It is absolutely safe to remove yourself from aspects of the game if it just isn't okay. The look down gesture and note cards are both resources that you can use. We've got examples of them. They've gone up. I think Becky's put that on on both the pages. These are just mechanics, and if we had video, I'd demonstrate. But yeah, apologies for that. They're both mechanics by which, if you're just not okay with something happening, you either show the note card or you use the look down gesture. You cover your eyes with your hands and you look down, and all crew know not to engage with you at that point. They'll just treat you as not being there, and then you can remove yourself safely to a more appropriate area. There isn't an amount of time that you can use these things. You use them as much as you need to. What we do say is that if you find that you're using these out of character mechanics frequently in similar situations, really have a think about if it's appropriate to continue putting yourself into those sort of situations. That we don't want out of character harm to come to you, and we also want the game to continue as much as possible with as few sort of breakages and out of character type things as possible as well. So we're looking to keep everyone safe, and we're looking to make it as immersive as possible. So there isn't a limit. Just be mindful of whether you're putting yourself in situations where you're likely to have to use it, and whether that's sensible or not. The other one is written comms. Sometimes you are still absolutely fine to continue playing the game, but it's all just got a bit much and words can't even. That's absolutely fine. If you just need to write stuff, write your things on a bit of paper and show that written comms to an NPC. And if you want them to write back, that's fine. Give them the pen and the paper. You can always use written comms if words have just got a bit much. It doesn't mean that you need to take yourself out of the game. It just means, words aren't. What that doesn't mean is it's not going to get you out of a particularly murderous situation. If you're asking a keeper baddie to do written comms, they will. They will also continue to punch you in the face if that's the appropriate situation. So they're not a get out of jail free card. It's just if words can't, then go for writing. It's totally cool to do that as well. The other one is I want.
And they've
For sure. Sorry, Andy, have I gone again?
Yeah. Basically started that thought train.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's go back to the pronouns bit. I just want to make really clear that we're respecting each other's pronouns. Please don't assume pronouns based on what someone looks like. That isn't going to be appropriate at this game. If you're not sure, default to they, them. If you don't know, default to they, them. And a lot of people will be wearing pronoun badges. That's great. If you would like to wear pronoun badges, that's great. We're going to be offering some of the crew have put together some pronoun badges for a small donation. You're very welcome to use those. They're sort of IC looking pronoun badges. So yeah, let's just be cool about that. And yeah, in terms of all managing ourselves, I'm going to be wearing loops a lot. I definitely recommend it if people are noise sensitive that they also bring theirs. If you know that you're sensitive to particular sort of stimuli, bring those. There'll be fidget toys in the decompression room. You're absolutely welcome to use those. And also, how your character using fidget toys as an in-character or out-of-character thing is absolutely fine, and no one should ever question that. Why are you using snap bands or whatever? No, it's just we do that's what we do at this game. That we use those if we need to. Last couple of points are the different blocks are we're using 3 separate blocks in the game. E block downstairs is the safe zone. All of E block inside the fence downstairs, so the outdoor area inside the fence of E block, is all safe. No fights will ever happen downstairs in E block or in the outside area of E block. Full stop. There are things that could negatively affect that area, but they will never be physical at all. So there will never be a fight there. And even if you were to take hostile action against an NPC that comes into E block downstairs, they will simply not fight back. You'll probably end up with a whole load of med cards. You'll probably end up bleeding out and on your death count, but they're not going to physically fight back. So there is absolutely no fighting downstairs in E block. Upstairs in E block is a different matter. If you select to go upstairs, it's going to be barricaded. It's going to be really hard to get past. You need to take a referee with you. But if you go upstairs in E block, that is a high combat environment. And if you go into the attic, that is a high combat environment. I've just seen Andy's question pop up there. Again, we don't want any fighting downstairs in E block. If you're going to have a fight with someone, then that is F block is a very appropriate place to have a fight with someone. Offering someone outside to F block is a really appropriate way of having fights between players. But downstairs and inside the fence of E block, not an appropriate area. Great question there. The F block is what it is within the game. It's a different part of the prison. So if you go there, it is what you can see. It's a prison area. It's the sort of not function rooms. Where stuff happens. So, like the kitchen and library and all of that kind of, the janitor, pump rooms, all of that kind of stuff happens over in F block. that will probably be a high combat area, with the exception of the walk-on, which we'll get onto later. But if you go over to F block, fundamentally it is there. It's within the prison, and what you can see and interact with, you can see. So, for example, on Friday night, after the point where you've got referee presence, you can still go and poke stuff in F block and make things happen. There's quite a lot going on over there that you're welcome to go and interact with, even without referees. G block is stuff that happens outside the prison. There's going to be loads of missions that you can select to go on that happen outside of the prison, and that all happens in G block, which is the piece nearest to the crew area. You can't see it from the prison. If there's stuff going on over there, you can't interact with it. It's in a different location. F block you can see, G block you can't. The time in, we're going to be aim is to time in at 7 on the Friday. If there's massive storm, huge traffic jams, no one's on site, and so on, that we might push that back till 8. But the plan is very much, unless otherwise, time in will be at 7 o'clock. You can get on site from 12 if you would like time to set up. If you're doing beautiful camp decorations, absolutely get on site from 12, get your place set up, chill out, all of that kind of thing, so you don't have to rush. If you would like to set stuff up, you're very welcome to. But yeah, you can't get on site earlier than 12 o'clock is the point. And timing will then run until midday on Sunday. E block and F block are fully timed in for that entire period of time. We don't time out. It's a 24-hour time in with referee presence from 9 in the morning till 1 o'clock the following morning. So on the Friday, it'll be 7 until 1. Timing continues after that. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, if you want to go and mess around with stuff in F block, you absolutely can. And there is a point in doing that. There's good reason for you to do that. It's just anything that needs a referee, like crafting or going upstairs to have a fight in E block. You can't do that without referee presence. So you can't do that after 1 p.m. 1 a.m. Sorry. Yeah, and the time in thing is we really don't want out of character discussions happening in the in character areas at all. If you want to have those discussions, absolutely have, go and set up an out of character area to chill out in. That's totally acceptable and totally allowed. It's a good idea if you want that time to decompress and you don't want that 24-hour time in experience. So absolutely do that, but do that in out of character areas so that we can keep the game area fully timed in and free of out of character discussion all of the time. We're going to make sure that referees and crew as well don't sort of sit having a chat in character areas. It is a fully time in all the time scenario. And just the last thing on that is that you'll be able to identify refs. Again, I was going to show you, we've got yellow snap bands for referees who are also playing NPCs, but that you can ask referee questions of. Andy will be the referee in charge of the in-character area. I will be in charge of the out-of-character area. But there are plenty of other referees that you can identify from the yellow high-vis. If a ref's wearing just a high-vis jacket, then they're not really there. They're going to be there for safety, for to help out with fights and that kind of stuff. But if they're wearing a snap band, it means that they are there. You can talk to them in character, but they can also help with out of character queries. So that's that on the out of character stuff. Should we go through any questions there then? I don't know, Andy, if we've got questions in the chat.
We've got one typing. I kind of addressed it with about ammo drops. What was your thinking about how often a player might encounter a few reloads?
Yeah, so if you're exactly what Andy said, that if you've played The Last of Us on moderate or harder difficulty, that's the sort of expectation. If you've not played that, you can expect that most critters won't drop ammo. There are a couple of places that have got bloody massive ammo drops, really substantial amounts of stuff that, you know, is clearly a sort of a military bit, but that's rare, and that's going to come with a huge amount of threat attached to it. The likelihood is that in any given encounter, you're probably going to get one or two darts out of that. Yeah.
And to tie into that, finding weaponry. Now, most of our classes do not start with guns. It's mostly a melee weapons only sort of system unless you start with the military training background archetype or wanderer and take the skill. In a similar fashion, you might find a blaster or a gun in a pile of scrap somewhere, but you're more likely to find it in a military installation, and that is more likely to come with a lot of threat to go with it.
Yeah, absolutely that. There are a couple of places where you could find an absolute grab bag of guns. It's a really dangerous thing to do, and you know that there aren't more than one or two opportunities for that within the game. While we're on the subject of that, any darts that you find on the floor are considered spent, so you can't just pick up darts or anything else from the floor. Likewise with arrows, I believe there's only one person currently that's put on their character card that they're going to be using a bow. They are the only person that can pick those arrows up. Anyone else helpfully picking arrows up off the floor will break those arrows. So, you know, just leave those arrows where they are. The only person that can pick up arrows is someone with the use arrows skill. Otherwise, they are assumed broken.
Okay.
There won't be lots of people using bows on the monster side either. Again, it's a very, very sort of Last of Us style thing. There are going to be NPCs that really, really want spent shells. So it's absolutely worth picking up spent shells and putting them in a spent shell pouch. Those have monetary value within the game. Just make sure that you don't mix them up with your live shells.
So we've had a few questions. What was the time the refs come back in the morning? That's 9 a.m. Give or take a few minutes as we crawl out of bed and try and find whatever's left of the coffee in the United Kingdom. In the FAQ, it says, please do not use mobile phones in the game. Does this include using it as an IC music source?
Oh, really good question. Yeah, assuming that it's a piece of tech that you found that is completely broken, other than it's got some tracks loaded on it, yeah, that's fine. If you're using it, you know, to I don't know, as a sort of resource for knowledge, you shouldn't do that. But using it to access the musician skill because you've got a playlist saved on it is a great idea.
Yeah. So essentially, just stick it on airplane mode and use it as for the music thing, because one, that'll make the battery last longer, and two, takes away the temptation to Google something.
Yeah.
If we need to or want to OC calibrate quickly, where is the best place to do that? Should we always go to an OC area?
Yeah, really, really sensible question. The chill out room is always available for everyone. That's in the crew hut. It will be obviously labelled. We'll also put some drinks and stuff in there. That's a really sensible place. If you just need 5 minutes of peace and quiet, what I'd really recommend is setting up an IC tent, you know, like a bell tent or something like that, or a quick pop-up tent that you can just go and take 5 minutes. You're still close to the in-character area, but you're just having a little 5 minutes of could everyone just not? Yeah, how everyone deals with that is going to be up to them. But ensuring that you've got a safe space in an appropriate area is sort of your call. We will provide the chill out room in the crew area. Other than that, it's up to folks to make their own choices.
Holly asks, are there any mechanics for stealth attacks against enemies similar to the Last of Us games?
Yes. Yes, there are. No one starts with that ability, but there are ways of acquiring that ability, and I would encourage you to go rooting around and reading all of the literature that you possibly can if that's something that interests you. Yes, that's absolutely a thing.
Andy N asks about, is there space for him to build a cinema? Basically, the lower portion of E Block is the player base. There will be a few areas of where previous residents have set themselves up, but what you do with the space is completely up to you.
Yeah, I believe there's 36 cells and 8 communal areas. And some of those communal areas are really large. The one when you go straight into the entrance of E Block, the one directly in front of you is going to be the medic area. If your character is playing a medical character and you would like to set up in that area with the medics, there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't do that. And that sort of corridor area is absolutely fine for use by all medics. But yeah, there's loads of space to do cool IC setups.
Excellent. Any more for any more? Ooh,
Cool. Well, I'll move on to the next section. We can always catch up with the questions on the next bit. So cool. This is the IC stuff skills section. So there are 4 calls within the game. There are 4 calls that you need to know about. We'll put a sheet up which reminds you in player areas. But fundamentally, they do what they sound like. And the calls are collapse, fatal, rend, and shatter. And if you're not sure, if it's all just got a bit much and there's too much information, take a point of damage and fall over, or stagger. That you're never going to get it wrong by taking a point of damage and falling over. If you genuinely forget, that is fine. No one's going to think that you're cheating. Take a point of damage and fall over. However, the call collapse makes you fall over. If you get hit with a weapon, it will probably also do that 1 point of damage from the weapon. Fatal does what it says on the tin. You go to 0 health points, and you start your 30-second death count, or longer if you're really lucky, or shorter if you've got too many med cards. Rend goes through armor. It takes armor down to 0 points, and that armor then has to be mended by an inventor. And shatter breaks any melee weapon. That includes enormous shields and two-handers. Shatter affects absolutely any melee weapon. Has absolutely no effect on bows or blasters. So those are the calls. There are grenades within the game. White, blue, and green grenades we've explained on the sheet. White grenades is you just can't see stuff. Blue grenades are stun grenades, and green you'll take points of damage from being within the smoke, and also you might get a med card. We're going to change the shrapnel grenade because we think grenades are really cool. We want people to be using grenades, and we want you to be able to do it without having to get a referee. And shrapnel grenades are the damaging grenades. So we'll put a post up about this specifically as well. But fundamentally, shrapnel grenades, we will give you a fizz rep for the grenade, or you can bring your own if you want. And you throw the grenade and you say the word boom. So if you want to say, as you're throwing this grenade, 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 boom, that will tell the monsters that they're taking the boom effect. They will take 3 points of damage and a collapse effect. So we've made shrapnel grenades better. Wherever that grenade lands, within a meter diameter, everything within that will take that 3 points of damage and the collapse. So that has changed. We'll do a separate post about that. But basically, loads of people have selected the skills that allow them to use explosives, and we want to facilitate that in the way that's the most fun for you. In terms of grenades, if you're making explosives is really dangerous. It's going to be one of the things that roleplay is going to help with, but there's going to be between a d20 and a coin flip chance of that thing that you're trying to create just exploding and really harming you. The better you roleplay, the less chance there is that you get the nasty effect. So really encourage good roleplay when you're making explosives. It doesn't mean you need loads of kit, just needs a cool amount of roleplay. Yeah, so that's the stuff to do with grenades there. Armor. Armor gives you either 1 point of damage, one additional health point if you have 2 locations covered, 2 additional health points if you've got 4 locations covered, or if you've got 6 locations covered, you get an additional 3 health points as armor. Attacks are always considered to hit your armor first, even if you're not wearing armor in that location. So if something hits you on the head, but you're only wearing armor on your arms, assume that the armor takes the damage. The reason that we're doing this is because not everyone can hard skill doing those amazing moves to get the damage on the helpful location. So we want everyone to get the full benefit of armor, even if you're not the quickest person in the world or your responses are slower. That's the reason for that. So you always take damage on the armor first, even if that location isn't armored. It's a hard skill, soft skill thing. We want people to take to be fully covered. Healing then. Healing happens in a number of ways. If you are on 0 health points, you can't go below 0 health points, but if you are on 0, you start your death count. The only thing that is going to help at that point is adrenaline. Loads of people are going to be starting with adrenaline, but you will also really need to get hold of some more of it. That's probably going to be a priority. The only way to go from 0 to not 0 is adrenaline. Anyone can use it. You can use it on yourself if you want. It's probably better if a doctor does it, but if you're in the middle of a battle zone and the only thing that's going to help is grabbing the adrenaline off the side and jabbing it in your heart, you probably would do. Anyone can use adrenaline. Health bandages are the thing that medics will use to make you better. Health bandages will take you up to full health points after 60 minutes. Any additional damage that you take within that time, you still take. So that you're not constantly being healed by health bandages. You need to be careful. You put the medical put the health bandages on you, and then it takes the time to take effect. The other thing that can heal you is prepped food. Prepped food works in the other way. Prepped food is amazing. It's really good. For the duration of eating it, which is 5 minutes, I believe, and I'll just check that. I've got the rule book with me. While you are eating the prepped food, you are constantly regenerating health. So you can make really bad choices as long as you've still got the effect there. Here you go, prepped food. 30 seconds, apologies. Prepped food, you're constantly healing for 30 seconds. If you take a fatal within that 30 seconds, you take a fatal. So the prepped food won't do anything against a fatal. You can't defeat a clicker by eating prepped food. That is a really bad choice. You can make other bad choices involving punching keepers in the face while eating prepped food, and that will work. If you're planning on doing something like that, probably make sure that one of the photographers is watching, because that'd be quite cool. So those are the 3 things that will restore health points. There's nothing else currently within the game that will do it. I imagine that some of you will start crafting better adrenaline, better health bandages that work a bit more like prepped food. That's up to you to, if you want to do cool crafting projects, that's probably what's going to happen there. Med cards then. Med cards are the other types of damage. Med cards can be removed by a medic and sometimes a chef. You don't know what disease you have or what wound you have or whatever. There's just a code. It'll be, A3, D5, whatever. Medics know what those codes are. And once you've got the diagnosis of what it is, chefs might be able to treat it as well. There's some stuff that they won't be able to treat, the stuff that's really severe. Which brings us on to the CPV. Some med cards have CPV, which is a Cordyceps points value. Again, all of this will be explained on the cards, and I'll put an example of a med card on the page so that you can see the CPV stuff and ask questions around it. Fundamentally, if your CPV level reaches 10, so if you accumulate 10 points worth of CPV, you become infected. And that's basically character death. That process then takes about 24 hours, which means that you've got time for your heroic last stand. You've got time for tearful last goodbyes. If you want to turn immediately, you can make that choice. How you go out once you become fully infected is entirely up to you. We want you to have the out that's the most fun and the most satisfying. So it's around 24 hours, but less if you want, and a little bit more, if there's a cool final battle that would be like, oh, that would be so good if I could be part of that, but that's like 26 hours away. Just do the cool battle. We want you to have the best out possible. Some things in the game can make you more resilient to CPV. Those will be things that you can explore in game, and will be really obvious what they're doing. There are items that can make you more resilient. In terms of what gives you CPV, green smoke will probably end up in a med card that gives you CPV, and you'll be aware of that. Green smoke is just really bad news, and getting bitten by infected is likely to give you CPV. Spending too much time without a mask in very infected areas, again, likely to give you a med card that gives you CPV. Harvesting organs from infected corpses without using gloves or a mask or that kind of thing, likely to give you a med card with CPV. But again, you can get rid of those med cards just like you could get rid of anything else. So it's not you've got that permanently. You can remove med cards with CPV. So if you've got a med card that says CPV 3, but you take yourself off to a medic and they give you the treatment, cool, you're back to 0. Lovely. So there are always choices there. Anything that NPCs can do, you can also do. So if you see, for example, the faithful doing a cool ceremony for a particular benefit, you could also be the recipient of that benefit. You could also be the recipient of the downside. The faithful can do some really, really cool stuff, and they get some really cool perks. If you would like to engage with that, you can also engage with that. Any perk that they can get, you can get. Anything that any NPC can do is something that you can do. It might take a lot of research, but there's nothing in the game that you can't do. If you can see it, you can do it. Crafting. So if you've got the as part of your archetype, you can make stuff on the standard list, and we'll make sure that we've got plenty of those lists printed out and in the player areas. You can make stuff on the standard lists with the ingredients that it asks for on those lists and a bit of roleplay, just however much is fun for you. The more you roleplay, the more you're likely to get out of it. It's a fundamentally unfair game, but you might get more than you asked for if the roleplay is amazing. You probably won't, but you might. So it's always worth doing. Roleplay adds perks to everything. The other side to that is if you don't want to do any roleplay, well, you kind of don't have to. You're just not going to get the possibility of a perk. You have to use the ingredients. We'd love for you to roleplay. Crafting projects. Again, each archetype will allow you to do certain crafting projects. What I imagine that people will do is they'll probably go for better versions of the thing that already exists. But you can go for wild and wacky stuff. And you can reverse engineer anything that you can find. So yeah, if you find a cool thing and you think, actually, I really want to be able to do that, I'll just take it apart, and then you've got the blueprint. So you'll know what ingredients are needed and you'll be able to make it. All crafting has to happen with a referee. And also, if you're planning to do some crafting, have a chat, have an in-character chat beforehand. And, if someone like Smith or Tess or the in-character referees say, oh, I don't think that'd work, that means as a referee, that won't work. So have that chat in an in-character way. We want to keep everything as in-character as possible. And if you've got great ideas, we want for those great ideas to happen. The only reason that we're going to say no is if we think it's not possible in the real world, if that effect couldn't be achieved in the world that we live in, or if we think it's going to make the game fundamentally unfair or unfun for other people. We want you to do cool stuff. We're going to try and say yes to cool ideas. And that takes us on to traps. So traps are a thing that inventors can do. If you find a trap, it will have a card or a referee on it. It's only safe for inventors to interact with it. If you're not an inventor and you try to interact with a trap, bad things are going to happen. Harm is going to come to you. Inventors can also reverse engineer traps to figure out, how to make them. So you might end up with inventors that are making a whole load of traps to put in character areas to keep the keepers out, for example. Inventors are the only one that can safely disarm traps or transport traps. If you are not an inventor and you start trying to carry a trap out of a building, it's going to do you harm. Definitely. If there's an inventor watching you and supervising you, you'll probably be fine. But one way or another, there's got to be inventors involved in the process. So that's traps. Looting is a skill that everyone can do. Dead monsters drop loot. You don't need to search dead monsters. They will simply put anything that is available for looting on the floor nearby, or in a visible, safe location that's not going to get squashed. You can't loot darts from dead monsters. You can't take darts from their blasters. You can't loot guns from dead monsters unless it's in the loot pile. They might, put blasters or carded items in the loot pile. That's fine, but you can't just take blasters off of dead monsters. It is assumed that blaster is irreparably damaged as they die. So it just isn't a lootable item. There's loads of loot to be found within the game. There's loads of carded items. There are ammo boxes. I think Andy might have put up some examples of the ammo boxes that you can find. If not, I'm sure he will put up an example of the ammo boxes that you can find within the game. Those are the only ammo types that you can pick up. You can't just pick up spent ammo from the floor. It has to be in the ammo boxes. We've been through death cards and upgrade cards. There's a couple of general skills that people can use. You can use the distract skill. So throwing items, throwing weapons like bricks or daggers or whatever, you can throw that item. All monsters are briefed to then go and interact with that item. If they're not particularly intelligent, then they'll just probably hover around where that thrown item has fallen and be distracted by it that way. If it's an intelligent human monster, they might wonder what has caused that sound. And after having gone to go and investigate, they might try and find the source of the disturbance. So it's very much like you would expect to find in a video game, that one. The listen mechanic is another one, that you can listen through walls, that you need to... You can't move and listen, and you can't use the listen skill to sort of put yourself into a different area. What listening does is you listen what's happening. Your body in the game is still where you started listening, so behind the wall, or in the safe location. Monsters won't interact with you when you're showing that closed fist, because it just means I'm not here, you can't interact with me. You can't use that listen to move into a location and then start an ambush. Your body remains in the position that you started the listening, even though your sort of phys rep of your body has moved. So once you finish listening, you go back to that location and you put your hand down and you continue on like that. So if you're listening, people won't know that you're there. It's not going to give anything away that you then physically move into that location. The musician skill that we mentioned a little bit is one of the skills that everyone can use. It's a sort of pick your own adventure type thing, and you're going to need a referee for it to work. It's worth telling the referee what you're aiming for. So if you're trying to get everyone enthused before there's going to be a massive fight, and you want everyone to be a bit more resilient, you want everyone to feel a bit more energized, a bit stronger, and you start, everyone starts playing music and banging drums and stuff, that will probably have a mechanical effect, but it definitely needs a referee. The referee will then tell the people involved, or more likely give out some cards as to what's happening. You can more or less do anything with the musician skill. It doesn't mean it's definitely going to work, and the more cool and convincing the roleplay is, the more likely it is to work. One person just singing a song might have no effect. It might have a very small effect. Everyone getting involved in a massive thing that's huge roleplay is way more likely to have an effect. You also shouldn't rely on it. If the only reason that you're going to survive is because you get one more hit because of using the musician skill, you probably best assume that you're going to die. It's not a reliable skill, and it's very much based around roleplay. You don't have to be good at the thing either. You can be a terrible singer, but still, get the benefit from it. Don't bring any instruments into a high combat environment that are going to be dangerous. So, things that are going to splinter if they get hit, just don't do it. Do a cool violin piece in the E block as people are marching out. Great. If I hear that people are playing violins, I am almost certainly going to come out myself and give everyone involved bonuses, unless they're in violent in-character areas where fights are happening, at which point I'll just give them med cards, and bad stuff's going to happen. Be safe with how you use the skill, but be cool. Culinary specialty is really similar to that, actually. You can do loads of stuff with culinary specialty, and again, it's sort of pick your own adventure. If you end up doing both, wow, yeah, that's really cool, and that's going to be such a huge roleplay thing. It's really likely to generate extra bonuses. You don't need to use carded items to do your culinary specialty. You must use roleplay. It's not going to work without roleplay. You don't even need, phys reps. Phys reps would be cool if you want to make cheese toasties for people. Great, as part of your thing. You don't have to eat the cheese toasties someone's given you to get the benefit. The only thing that you need to do is role play, and you do need to get a referee. If you're trying to use a culinary specialty, you can pretty well replicate any skill within the game. If there's a good enough reason why your amazing food will give someone that ability. That's why you need to get a referee, and they'll probably end up giving the recipient a card. There's no limit to how many times you can use culinary specialty and musician, but if we think that you're doing it frivolously and not putting a huge amount of roleplay into it, it's probably going to be harmful rather than helpful. So we want it to be really cool roleplay. We're not giving out perks all over the place for tiny reasons. Big cool roleplay moments before crucial fights or vital last stands. that's probably the moment to use it. Make it special. And the last thing on this bit is bite damage. Infected will do bite damage. They're not going to be hitting you with weapons, probably. Some might, but it's more likely that they'll do bite damage. Bite damage is if an infected, and they'll be really obvious because they've got mushrooms growing off them. If someone with mushrooms growing off them touches you with 2 hands, that is bite damage. You take 1 point of bite damage each time they touch you with 2 hands. You will probably get a med card if you spend loads of time getting bite damage from infected. Not definitely, probably. If a referee sees you take lots of bite damage, they'll probably come and give you a med card with CPV. That's the most likely time that you'll get CPV. Clickers and infected, clickers and bloaters, will on every hit be calling fatal. If a clicker or a bloater 2-hand touches you, that's immediately a fatal. They're really, really dangerous. That's why we say they're low-con monsters. Even if every single person swarms them, it's probably going to be a TPK. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Don't try it and find out. In terms of their stats, they are monstrously highly statted. It just isn't worth it. They're a low-con monster. We don't expect you to fight them. And they do fatal as a minimum on every hit. Regular infected is just 2-hand touch, take a point of damage, you might get a med card. So that's that for skills. Do we want to do some questions at that point?
Yep, we've got a few. Going back to OC areas. Ben P is asking, in regards to the cellar rooms, I know they are icy areas. Can we keep OC things in them, like real food, meds, water, etc., in a container that's clearly marked OC for easy access?
Yes, that's really sensible. Love that you're putting OC on it so that people don't come and try and, nick your Pop-Tarts or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. You can keep phone chargers, you can keep phones, you can keep all of that stuff in icy areas, as a safety and well-being thing. But yeah, very sensible to label it OC.
Yep. Jamie is asking, how will found weapons work for those of us with military training?
So anyone with military training can start the game with their +1 melee weapon or whatever swap you've asked for on your card. That's absolutely fine. Any findable weapon will have a card attached to it, and if it doesn't have a card attached to it, you can just assume it's a monster's dropped it in the middle of a fight and it isn't actually there. Any weapon that those with military training can find will be a carded item, so you'll know that you can pick it up.
Okay. There was mention of character packs at the event with our skills and stuff like that. Will that also include information our characters might know? The answer is a definite maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. On the traps front, what would be the relevant skill for a wanderer to take to be able to deal with traps if there is one? Now, there isn't a specific inventor skill for traps. So I believe that it was originated as an innate ability of the inventor that can't be taken.
Yeah, correct. If you've seen the stuff about traps and you're like, oh my god, that's really cool, I want access to that, that's changed things for me. Put an amendment on your character form. If you've taken, we'll find a way to make it work. Is what we're saying. If that's a really cool skill for you, and you've already got your character build that you're happy with, talk to us. We can make it work.
Okay. Is Wonderwall a site-wide fatal? Yes, and a few others. But it'll be site-wide specifically at the person who's playing it. Hang on. Three blind mice. You mentioned that there was lots of potential for games after 1 a.m. when the refs go. Can we have an example, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So F block is stuffed full of things for you to find, interact with, plot stuff, cool stuff, items. There's loads of things that you can do over in F block that will be beneficial to your situation. I can't imagine. Well, I mean, I'm sort of tempting fate here. There is a huge amount to be done in F block, and I wouldn't anticipate all of it getting done before 1 a.m. And the vast majority of it is stuff that will have self-ref cards on it that you can go and interact with in your own time.
Okay. Player grenades. This is probably one for Pip. Are there players to be trusted with pyros? Do we bring our own, or are these also to be found? I think you missed the pyro brief a bit earlier, but I'll hand you over to Pip.
Yeah. Trusted in what way? Sorry, that's quite a broad question. Are you able to expand on?
I think the question there is: are we allowed to bring our own pyro if we know that we're going to be making explosives?
Okay, so in terms of smoke grenades, any smoke grenades that you bring with you will be checked before the game starts in a similar way to the way that a weapons check would be done. So we'll just be checking them to make sure that they are kind of reasonable ones and that they would be safe to use. I think that's unless you're typing. Hang on, me.
Yeah. No, I think that covers it. That's yeah. If we want more detail, do pop it in the question. But yeah, that's super. Thanks, Pip. Any more questions there, Andy, or should we move on to people in history?
Just one more, and gives Jamie time to type. So I've heard an awful lot about chefs and inventors being able to do stuff in game. What are scientists likely to be doing? So, as well as the combinations of drugs, medicines, and explosives, it's essentially what you would imagine a scientist would be able to do in the real world in terms of research and that sort of thing. It's if you break it down, chefs are the researchers of food and all that sort of stuff. Inventors are the engineers. Scientists are everything else. Some projects might require a combination of the two classes working together. It's basically come to us with an idea and we'll see if we can make it work.
Yeah, absolutely that. So, this is a world where a huge pandemic has occurred, and there was very, very briefly work towards vaccine and a cure. Neither of those things currently exist within the game. I'm going to hazard a guess that player medics, player scientists are going to find the research that is available and look for vaccines and cures. That's one of the things that I think that they'll probably be doing. But anything that a scientist in the real world can do, you can do if you can think of a way to fizz wrap it, or if you can think of a way that it would help you in the game. So if a lot of people are specializing in chemistry because they want to go down the explosives route, that's brilliant. A lot of people are looking at biology because they want to do medics. That's great. There is a lot of room for people messing around with electricity as well. That's totally fine. Whatever is fun for you, there is a thing that you can do within the game.
Mm-hmm. Can scientists heal without resource?
Can scientists heal without? No, it's not possible to take someone from no hits to some hits, or from some hits to full hits, or remove a med card without resource. All of those things require resource.
And I think that's everything. Yep.
I'm just going to jump back on Amy's. clarified what he meant by trusted. He's just said trusted in the same way as stab safe competency or bow competency. So just to go over that again, we will have a briefing that any player who wants to use smoke grenades will have to attend before every event. So that will go over how to use things safely, how to use them in the context of this game, and just a quick demonstration of how they will need to be used at this event as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just on the point of zero resource stuff, I would imagine that there will probably be people researching things like a med bay type bit where you construct an item which allows for zero resource healing. That's probably a crafting project for medics. That would be a really cool crafting project, and I imagine it would be expensive, but it would work. Well, I don't imagine it would work. I know it would work. Cool. We'll move on to people in history, and then any other questions, pop them in the chat. So the people that everyone will know will be Smith, which is going to be Andy's character, the sort of the leader of the base. Astrid will be the leader of the Faithful. That's going to be played by Melanie Carter Groves, if you know them. If not, we'll try and point notable people out at the player briefing. Toast is going to be a known person. She's the leader of the Keepers, and is going to be a very large threat in a ball gown. Again, we'll try and point it out. It's Sarah shaped for folks that know Sarah. Also a referee, so I wouldn't stop Toast to ask her questions, but it's more that anything that Toast says is being said by a referee. Any videos that you've seen on the Facebook or YouTube, those are things that your character could have seen if you would like for them to have seen them. Those videos are all in character videos. And the Nightingales, the IC medics. Again, you'll have seen them on the videos. Those are people that you'd know in the game. A lot of people have been asking, how long have you been there? And that is entirely up to you. So Smith has been there for ages, a year or so, really long time. If you would like to have also been there for a long time, that's absolutely fine. If you would like to have just got there, that's also fine. There's been a broadcast saying, come to this safe space, in the same way as in The Walking Dead and, all of those type of things. They broadcast a thing saying, come to this safe location. And sometimes it's safe and sometimes it isn't. This one is a safe location, and you can have heard the broadcast saying, come to this safe place. So how long you've been there is entirely up to you. And if you would like to start the game just getting there, there are options for that. That's fine. You'll start the game with F block being overrun, and that's literally only just happened. And within the game, the infection happens Easter 2024. That's when the world ends. In the game, it's Easter 2024 is when the world ends. And the game time is Easter 2044. So the game is precisely 20 years in the future. So it's just the date plus 20 years. Is going to be on offer, that anyone who wants to do a high combat walk on can do a high combat walk on, and we'll ask you on, when you arrive, what do you want to do? You can select the high combat walk on. It's going to be really dangerous, but there's going to be a possibility of stuff. You can do a low combat walk on. It's also going to be dangerous, but you don't need to move around. You can stay safe by staying still, and you can also get stuff, or you can start in the base if you would prefer. It's entirely up to you. If you don't want to do a walk on, don't have to do a walk on. You can stay there getting ready for people. It's entirely your call. You can die on low combat missions. It's absolutely possible. You just don't have to move fast to get out of harm's way. Totally possible. Just be careful of all of the hazards. There's smokes going on, there's bangs, there's people going to be being scared. There is stuff that's going to be gross. There are potentially going to be on high combat missions, water guns being used. There are in F block gross things that you need to go and put your hand in to get the gross stuff out of. Don't put your hand in stuff if you don't want gross stuff all over your hand. Don't put your hand in stuff if you don't have a means of washing the gross stuff off your hand. Don't interact with gross things if you don't want gross things. When you go out on a mission, you can't do research, so you can't start a crafting project. But if you find a whole load of components and you luckily find the stuff that will make adrenaline, and you haven't got any adrenaline left, and you're going to have to put it together under this huge threat, that might work, but it very much comes down to referee discretion. So you can only make stuff off the known item to referee that for you. So it's a maybe. As we said, F block is available all time, mostly self-refereeing, and if it needs a ref outside of the 9 to 1 slot, you can't do it. Wait until the 9 a.m. The objectives and selecting mission stuff, NPCs are going to be articulating the objectives for you. Smith will be telling you what needs done in order to succeed. The Nightingales, I imagine, will also be telling you what needs done. Astrid will probably tell you what needs done. So the objectives for sort of winning, if you like, will be articulated in character. In terms of going out on a mission, what you can do will be articulated to you. There'll be a notice board, there'll be NPCs telling you what needs to be done. You can only go on one mission at a time, so we can't have 5 different missions happening because we need referee resources and we need crew to do that stuff. From an IC point of view, it means you're not leaving the base undefended. From an OC point of view, it means that we can create that encounter for you. What it means is that tell Smith that you're going out on a mission, and he will organise a faithful scout for you, which is shorthand for we will set that mission up and then we'll have someone take you out on that mission. So if you're going to do a mission, you have to tell Smith, and then the scout will lead you to the place. You can also, in the hurry up and wait time, talk to the faithful. If your character would be okay with it, they might be able to give you a boon while you're waiting. It's definitely worth talking to the faithful about that. There's stuff that they can do that might juice you up. Or you might want to go and have a chat with chefs or inventors, or get yourself tooled up ready for a fight. The last point is there is way more to do over the weekend than can be possibly achieved. We absolutely don't expect all missions to be completed. It's not possible. It's not doable. We're going to share goals with you in an in-character way, but fundamentally, if you manage to get the lights on and don't lose the base, that's a win. If you only do one of those things, that's a win. It's not possible to achieve all objectives, so please don't worry that you're not winning. There's more to do than can possibly be done. So that's it. Let's do some questions and then we'll wrap up.
Oh, people are typing. Okay. Silence, Mr. Capitalism. You mentioned gross stuff to interact with in F block. What will it be made of in case of allergies, etc.?
It will be the gross stuff will probably be stuffing. I will, if there's a gross thing, I will put an allergen card on it. That's a really good point. but you can assume that it's going to be stuffing, and I'll try and make sure that it's gluten-free and vegan as a default. Yeah, if you've got to put your hand in gross. Oh, there will also be a gross bucket of stuff. We will make sure that we put allergen warnings on the gross bucket of stuff.
If I can interject here to help with the gross bucket of stuff.
Yes, please.
Gross bucket of stuff is done with food-safe silicone and food-safe items. If you accidentally end up eating anything from the gross bucket of stuff, it should be okay. It will be made.
I think we've lost Sarah there.
Oh, did you regain me or?
Yeah. So it's going to be made with food safe stuff. We don't recommend that people eat stuff from the gross bucket, but if you do, it's unlikely to put you in hospital, and will put any allergens on it, like wheat or whatever.
In theory, it should be vegan and not have allergens that are common allergens.
Yeah. TLDR, try not to eat the gross bucket. If you eat the gross bucket, it's probably okay, unless you're really unlucky. Cool. Questions? No?
Nothing straight away.
Super. Well, look, there's loads of time for folks to pop questions as they think about it in the in the chat. I will hang on. Let me just turn my camera on, because I think we might be able to get the camera back. Yeah. So the referees will be wearing snapbands like that, so you can tell anyone that's wearing a snapband like that is a referee who is also in character. So you absolutely should go and role play with them, and you absolutely should go and ask them questions if you would like. The spent meds, there we go. We'll have a box for spent meds that you can put spent meds in, and here we go, med cards. Ooh. There is an example of a med card. It's got information about CPV on the back, and then on the front, there we go, details about how to role play, what the symptoms are, and then there's a nice code on there for medics to diagnose you. It tells you how to interact with it, and then you can see at the bottom CPV 0. Most med cards have 0. I think that was everything I was going to do show and tell with. Cool, yeah, so stick any other questions in the chat, and when you think of stuff, cool, ask us those questions. We'll do another shorter briefing before time in, just to go over the key points. But yeah, cool. I'm really excited, and I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone's cool characters.
And we are not getting any more questions, so I think we are good.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, can't wait to see you all, folks. Get the questions on if you want to, and if not, see you a week on Friday.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us.
Woo, thank you guys. This was awesome. Thank you. Bye.